In this video, I'm going to talk about the very complex subject that is food noise. Physically, mentally, I think all people experience food noise. In the dictionary, it's described as the feeling of wanting to eat even though you know you are not hungry. It can be a craving, it can be an actual feeling of genuine hunger. We're going to identify the cues, we're going to identify why it happens, and we're going to make sure that by the end of this video, you're furnished with all the facts and empower you to put it into practice to overcome this very tricky subject. My name is Harry Hedges. I am the Bariatric PT. I've had the pleasure of supporting thousands of bariatric patients, gastric sleeve, gastric bypasses, and in the short term, food noise is absolutely supported with these tools. When people are taking GLP-1s, Mounjaro, Wegovy, these are tools are also helping food noise. But long term, we need to be thinking about an empowered practice towards building habits. And to do this, we need to identify where these cues come from, but also what we can do in that situation. Because if you think the answer is just avoiding food noise for the rest of your life, I'm afraid you're a little bit mistaken. There is absolutely evidence to suggest that some people are more vulnerable to food noise based on genetics, based on ADHD. These are things that are absolutely to be aware of. However, what I'm here to say is there are tools in practice that people are not utilizing that is making life harder, which makes it far more likely that we're going to bow into food noise and maybe go against health and go against potential weight loss goals or indeed fitness goals. And the beauty is, if you reverse engineer some of the reasons why food noise occurs, it's actually abundantly clear what to do about it. And you have to think about your brain as this constant machine seeking homeostasis. It knows what it likes, it knows what it's done in the past and enjoyed those moments, and it will indeed create cravings for us to want to go and do those things again. The good news is you don't crave something that you haven't had for a very, very long time. You don't crave something you've never had before in your entire life, and it's worth thinking about that. You can overcome this, but you've got to make sure that you do small things consistently well. You've also got to make sure you've got a plan B. A plan B is actually, okay, maybe that extremely calorie dense thing is not a good idea, but can I back myself up with some other options accordingly? But before all that, you need to identify when these cravings, this food noise actually occurs. Because for a lot of people, it is not first thing in the morning, after they've exercised, after a good night's sleep, and they are fully hydrated. A lot of the time, food noise strikes when we are tired, stressed, undermoved, underengaged, bored. You know where I'm going with this sort of stuff. So with all this in mind, here are 5 tactics that I would introduce if you experience food noise that's going to help no end. Number 1, I've spoken about sleep. Having a bedtime. I know this sounds so basic, but again, there's lots of people staying up late, eating lots of food in the guaranteed time where food noise is going to occur. Boredom, tired, non-engaged, maybe watching something on the TV or what have you. I'm not saying you have to do it every night, but the reason we give our children a bedtime is because it's exceptionally good for us. The reason we give our children a bedtime is because it's more likely they're going to be energized and happy the next day. So why don't we, for some reason, as we get older, we think that's no longer a thing. You can pick the bedtime, I don't mind, but show a discipline by going to bed at the same time each night. I promise you it will help. Number 2, from that bedtime, you can start to reverse engineer an evening routine. Time is something that is quite important. We have a circadian rhythm. A lot of people associate it with their sleep, and rightfully so. So if you go to bed at the same time, you tend to wake up at the same time. Going back to point 1, we've already started a healthy rhythm to our sleep, which is going to make cravings, believe it or not, even more predictable as the day goes on because our sleep is in place. But suddenly we can reverse engineer and say, well, actually having some food 2 hours before bed, we know is not a good idea. We don't really want the body overworking our digestive system while we're trying to get a good night's sleep. So maybe we said our bedtime is 10. We're going to have a cutoff point at 8 o'clock where no more food and snacks come in. You can use a very simple discipline like time to stick to for 2 hours. You can have a cup of tea during that time. You can have water. You can do whatever you want to do. Have a bath, have a shower, do whatever you got to do. But I'm talking about on those mundane evenings, Monday to Thursday, where not a lot's going on, stick to this. Of course, if you're at a wedding or a party, you've got a social occasion, that's different. But I'm talking of the 365 days. Maybe there's 275 that are just the normal mundane days. This is what I would do. And suddenly we have overcome and conquered quite an important time when it comes to food noise by going to bed at a reasonable time and having a healthy sleep cycle and just having that discipline in place with time, which is extremely easy to understand. Number 3, understand that environment is king. I don't see many people walking down the road worrying about food noise. I don't see many people doing yoga, exercising, swimming, worrying about food noise. There is definitely something that if we are engaging, if we are doing, we are thinking less. And this is a good thing when it comes to diet. Now, I'm not saying you've got to run around like a mad person all the time. You need other practices in place when you have some quiet time. I don't see many people overindulging in snacks when they're reading a book. I'm not saying there's not some people out there that do it. I'm generalizing, but we can use some of these cues to our advantage. So think to yourself, where does this happen? Is it in the car? Is it when I'm watching TV late at night? Identify the cue and then reverse engineer that to be busy or indeed have discipline in place alongside it. Part B of 3, environment, is out of sight is out of mind. If you are buying lots of multi-packs where food craving noises tend to live, biscuits, crisps, they tend to live in more than one packet, tend to be quite cheap, quite available, quite easy, very tasty, very moreish, very calorie dense, very low in protein and fiber, more on those to come in a second. You can see why maybe having one is very difficult. You're more likely to have 3, 4, and 5. This is bowing into food noise because we haven't set ourselves up right. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a certified nutritionist. I know all about this stuff. If I have a hard day, stressed out, tired, get home, and there is availability of calorie-dense snacks, I don't care about my qualifications. I don't care about my health. I don't care about my knowledge because I've put myself in a reactive, vulnerable state with options available to me. This is not the best practice when it comes to overcoming food noise. So let's set ourselves up correctly. It's not saying you can never have a snack ever again, but be mindful about what's in the household. If there's other people in the household buying it in, maybe let's have a conversation with that person and say, look, why don't we both work on our health accordingly? If kids are absolutely demanding it, maybe there's a conversation to have there because don't we want the best health practice for our kids? Believe you me, the vulnerability of food noise lives in habits that we built when we were much younger and much more impressionable, more so than any genetic or condition right now. It lives in certain parts of the day. When I was a kid, I used to love getting in from school and overeating calorie-dense food. It was one of my favorite parts of the day. Thankfully, I was extremely active with football, rugby, basketball. I managed to get away with it. But as soon as I left school and wasn't doing the sport, I piled on the weight over 3 stone or so compared to what I was. So this is coming from somebody who understands this stuff. It's coming from someone who has a vulnerability to this stuff. And what I'm here to let you know is that it is absolutely doable to overcome it, but you've got to want to do it and you've got to do the small things well. Going to bed is a small thing done well. Maybe having a cut-off point at 8 p.m. is a small thing done well. Not bringing the food into your environment is a small thing done well. And that brings me on to point number 4, setting yourself up for a proactive day rather than a reactive day, utilizing meals, protein, and fiber. Protein and fiber are both very filling. They make us more likely to be fuller for longer throughout the day. So we want to utilize them to our advantage. Yes, there are protein snacks out there, but they tend to live in meals. Now, meals are a wonderful thing for diet. They're a wonderful thing for our health because they tend to be far more nutrient dense than the calorie dense stuff that we crave. And they also tend to create a rhythm to our day. We can go back to our old friend time. The old Molly May saying, we've all got 24 hours in the day. I don't know what she meant about that, but on a food basis, it's actually pretty much makes sense in the sense of we all have to eat, drink, and sleep. We're human beings. We should be prioritizing time towards our meals. I know there's gonna be some people saying, but Harry, I've got kids, I've got full-time work. Yes, they're important too, but you should be prioritizing 3 to 4 meals per day, particularly as a bariatric patient. A bariatric patient cannot get as many nutrients in as they may wish to because the portion size is much smaller. So this nutrient-dense food, these meals, protein with color, protein with fiber, needs to be prioritized 3 to 4 times a day. Otherwise, you're not going to hit your 80 to 100 grams of protein. You're not going to hit your 15 to 20 grams of fiber. You're not going to hit your iron. This is where meals and this is where protein and color lives towards hitting a nutrient-dense diet. We know the snacky stuff hasn't got that. So if we start to think about prioritizing food and meals specifically in our day, and I think the best way to do that to start with is breakfast and lunches have similar meals, and maybe the other 2 or 3, if you're having 3, have a different one for flexibility per day, because I understand that diversity can be quite interesting in diet, and that's fine. But what I'm getting at here is prioritizing meals 3 to 4 times per day. And the best thing to do is I would say, right, when am I having my breakfast? When am I having my lunch? When am I gonna have a middle meal? When am I gonna have my dinner? For example, me, I like to have my breakfast at 8, my lunch at 12, something at 4 o'clock, something at sort of 7, 8 o'clock. Close my window, done. And it is amazing how much control you have when you do that. I'd much rather do that and overthink that for a period of time than not think about it at all and then absolutely overindulge in reactive snacks because I haven't thought about it that day. So again, food noise is absolutely a thing. Food noise can be more vulnerable towards certain people, but you can set yourself up better. I don't know many people who are having 4 meals with protein and fiber in nearly all of them. No one expects perfection, but prioritizing it, hitting their fluid target, which I'm going to speak about in a minute, having a good night's sleep and getting some exercise in and changing their environment. 4 or 5 things. I do not know one person who's implemented 3 to 4 meals per day with protein and calorie in each of them, going to bed at a reasonable time and getting their sleep and taking their sleep seriously and hitting their fluids, more on that to come. I don't know one person who's not been able to overcome food noise for the better when they've done that. So it's worth listening to this data. And number 5 is fluids, hydration. Really easy to fall short on. When the body craves hydration, it doesn't necessarily crave water. It will probably crave some sort of carbohydrate. The clue's in the title, they hydrate us. Far tastier, far more. If we're de-energized, we're not necessarily going to want to make that meal or prioritize that meal. So take your hydration seriously. You can have cordial in it, you can have different bits and pieces in it, but please be mindful of the fact that as a bariatric patient, hydration needs to be taken seriously. You can feel very dizzy, you can feel very almost malnourished if we don't hit our hydration target. So of course, quick, easy calories are going to be a lot better. So that is the entirety of the 5 things that are going to help your food noise. I guarantee you, if you put them into practice tomorrow, you will start to feel better within 2 to 3 days or so. You've got to give it a bit of time. You're going to be thinking about it. There might be some cravings that come up. Remember, cravings don't just live day to day, they live seasonally. At Christmas time, there's more availability of food groups. People tend to overindulge more at that sort of time of year. People at weddings and parties and different aspects. Our brains work very much seasonally and day to day. So there's a constant battle, but a constant battle that can be won if we at least have a decent plan in place to do that. And that lives in prioritizing our sleep, having a bedtime, having a cutoff point of food group about 2 hours before bed, being aware of our environment and making sure we've not got calorie-dense foods available, but also open-minded to changing our environment, prioritizing meals with protein and fiber throughout the day, and prioritizing the hydration. We have to eat, we have to drink, we have to sleep. If we start skipping things on that, our body becomes far more reactive in quick, easy things, and that's where lack of control can come from. I really hope you enjoyed that. I'm the Bariatric PT. Please hit subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll look forward to catching up with you very, very soon.